Hey, I'm Rora.
I'm Jane.
And we are Birds of Clay.
And we're here to talk all things Australian pottery and ceramic art.
So put your kettle on.
And let's have a chat. We would like to pay our respects to the traditional custodians on the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We acknowledge the rich history of art, craft and storytelling that has been occurring for millennia, and acknowledge elders past, present and country as provider, protector and guide. Working with clay is intrinsically linked to country, and we would not be here without the care and connection that our First Nations peoples have shown for thousands of years on this continent we call Australia.
Oh, it's on. It's on.
Let's just ignore it.
Yeah,
we will. Recording.
We will.
Yeah, that's the best word for me because
We're just having a chat.
And when I was in high school, I feel like the high school teachers just never get sick of my last name because Y is the last on the roll usually.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Yeah, we finished the roll." I'm like, so Ruby, yeah, we finished the roll. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oh, you're like, good joke. Never heard it before.
So yeah, it's fine.
Great. Hi everyone. We are here today with our good friend Ruby Yeh. Ruby is a Taiwanese Australian ceramicist working and living in Mianjin, Brisbane. She is the recent winner of the North Queensland Ceramic Art Award, and she also contributes to the ceramic community in multiple ways. And we're excited to finally chat with her. Welcome, Ruby.
Welcome. Yay.
Yay.
Actually, they did that in Taiwan too. Like when I was in Taiwan, every time someone wants to take a photo of me, they like take the camera and be like, Ruby, yeah. And then I was like, oh wow, this joke actually translate between English, both to English and also Mandarin.
It's a good luck. You just thought you could go to Taiwan and it'd be all over. Yeah, everyone would just be like, oh yeah, no, that's a very serious last name. Ruby, is there anything else you'd like to add with your intro? Like,
my intro?
Yeah, like how do you introduce yourself?
I don't know. I feel like I just work with clay. I don't even know if I should call myself a ceramicist. Sounds really pretentious. I just like working with clay.
Yeah, that's cool. I know there's all those terms and they're like ceramicist, potter, clay worker. I wrote once.
Clay maker.
And really we all do the same thing, don't we?
Yeah. But it was interesting because I actually met someone recently and she didn't want to be referred to as a potter because she feel like potter is just pottery, not arts. And she doesn't want to be sided with the craft side. She wanted to be sided with the art side.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I personally don't really. I feel like we do all sort of, we do functional wares and then you do arts as well. So it doesn't really matter to me. But
we're all similar like that, aren't we? Yeah.
Depends on who's asking. Like, I'll just say one day, I'm a ceramicist. Oh, yeah, I'm a potter. The next day, it doesn't really, you know.
It depends. I mean, you do have to do functional wear and you have to do art side of the thing as well because you need to make a living.
It's true. And I think like when I started doing clay work, I like made business cards up with Jane on pottery because there's something I liked about pottery because I didn't think it was pretentious. Like I was like, and it kind of was referencing the past a bit. Like, I don't know, sometimes I think ceramicist, it could be a little bit like, making the ceramic things on a plane or something. It's, like ceramic engineering is a whole thing in itself.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So anyway, I put pottery down because I kind of liked the humbleness of it. But since then I've just started using my name and not putting any label because as soon as you start making art, pottery kind of doesn't fit as much.
That's true.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Look, we're straight in, aren't we?
We don't label ourselves.
I don't know. I feel like I work with clay, but I also like the thinking aspects of it and the writing aspects of it. And yeah, so I do a bit of writing, I guess, in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Also, as well as making pots, which you know.
Yeah. So tell us more.
Yeah, actually, I was really surprised when I got the job as assistant editor. One of the assistant editors, because you are one too. Yeah, I didn't feel confident I could do the job, but I think that's just self-doubt that I haven't got rid of since childhood. I think it's like childhood trauma. I don't know. I don't think it's uniquely to Asian, but it happens. Higher probability in Asian community where you don't get praised as a kid, and so then I feel like even though I feel like on paper everybody always tells me like, oh, you're doing so well in the ceramic community, like you're doing so much. I still feel like, oh, I didn't do that much. Anyone can do this much.
So you have high expectations for yourself?
Yeah, I guess like unconsciously probably. But people like, for example, my partner keeps saying like, I think you're doing really well. Like, you just gonna be proud of what you've done. And I'm like, oh, but like, I haven't done this and I haven't really done this. And and it's always
I feel like we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, Ruby, like you do like, amazing pottery. You've been the assistant editor of the journal. You do these fantastic multidisciplinary performances with music. You teach. You're like...
You write. You win art prizes.
There's just so many things you do, and you seem to always be working hard. And as I said before, like contributing to the community. But I think it's something I know Aurora and I have spoken about a bit is like imposter syndrome and just that, I don't know, fear that we have that we're not good enough and we're not doing enough and we're never going to get there. And I think it's a really normal place.
Yeah, it is always hard to see yourself and your work objectively. So that's why it's good when you have a supportive partner, because they can look at you and see the progress, like where you've come from and then compared to now with everything that you're doing now. Because remember, like the things we're doing now are things we dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I didn't... getting the assistant editor job was a surprise because 6 years ago when I started working with clay, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing, writing and editing articles in a journal, which is amazing.
I was just saying to Laura on the drive down here, that's been one of my favourite issues too. Like, it's such a strong issue, and I think what's really interesting about the Journal of Australian Ceramics, and I think your issue really highlights this, is that it tells the stories from back to the potters, the ceramicists, the clay workers, like from all different fields. And I think different stories of, that fantastic piece around being a parent and being a potter. And I think that was really powerful. But all of it was a beautiful issue. And I know you and Montessa worked on it together, but I think your voice is quite strong in it.
Should we just mention the issue number?
No, I don't.
What
Ruby,
number
you'll
is
know
it?
what it is.
It's 633.
633?
Yeah.
Everybody get on it.
Because I think they've been going on for 60 plus years.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's 63 means it's the sixth.
63rd year.
Or something.
Third edition.
Yeah. I think it's the third edition because there's three.
Oh, yeah, because it was November edition, so it's the third. Yeah.
I couldn't say 63 for some reason.
Yeah, because there's the 60 exhibition that's travelling around.
True.
Yeah, that's going to be in Toowoomba at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, you'll have to come up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should.
I'm sure you've seen it. Well, we saw it in Central Australia, didn't we?
Yes. We can see it again. It's
We
fine.
can see it. Yeah.
Well, I think Montessa is great because she gave a lot of freedom to the assistant editor, which I think that's the whole point of having multiple assistant editors, so they can bring a different perspective. Because it's while you're on the job, it's quite hard because you only can in contact with this many people. So then if someone else can give you like a feedback, you can kind of talk to each other. It's like, oh, have you seen this person's work? Have you seen what this person's doing? And then you might, she might have not known the people I know of. And so I think it's really good to bounce off each other. But then she also was like, yeah, really respect when I say, oh, I wanted to try to do this. Which that motherhood, parenthood piece really double the amount of work we had to do. Because for the same amount of pages, you usually have one author you have to be in contact with emailing. But then there was 39 people I had to contact.
That's so many.
Yeah, just like 39 contact, and I had to keep track of who I've contacted and then who's replied and who's okay with the image, and so it was a lot of like following up of emails. So I just made more work for Montesa, but then she was like, you can be in charge of it.
But it shows, it's a really rich collection of stories, and it's great that it's also continues, like even if for those that are listening want to jump on the Australian Ceramics website and look at the journal page, if you scroll down to the bottom you can access all the stories.
Yeah, so that was
from
another
there.
thing I made Montesa more to do it, because I feel like I added more workload for her. Poor Montesa, I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm doing it too, don't I?
I was like, oh, but they are really good. And then she's like, we can't fit them all on the page. I'm like, oh, can we have a QR code? I was like, what is, so everybody can see everybody's stories? She's like, oh, we'll see how it works. And then so she had to go and figure out how to do all the pages and stuff. And I had to, when I was filing them as well, had to file the ones for print and the ones for digital, and then like everything has to be edited as well, check over, because if it's publishing digitally, I mean, I'm not just editing the ones for print. So then it end up being like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm really proud of that, because it kind of tied into the piece. I won the award for the of motherhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of potters are not, we're not just talking about moms who's working in the pottery world, but when I started the of motherhood piece, it was because being a woman, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And then thinking about my mom, thinking about my grandmother, and like the different generations and the values and the things they had to do to maintain families, or the compared to how I feel about having a family and the prospects of being a mother was, I guess, got me thinking. And then it was really stifling when I was thinking to myself, like I'll just keep regurgitating, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. So then that's why I did the open call, because I wanted to hear stories from women who's went through, because I'm in mid-30s, so there are people who are younger than me, and then kind of like in the midpoint of women having kids and not having kids, and you meet women who couldn't have kids in their 50s, 60s, and they have people who are thinking about having kids in my age. And I don't know, it was just nice to read stories. And then I think it helped me process about my own prospect of being a mom. Yeah, and I think there's a fear in it as well, because I didn't have the best childhood growing up. Didn't see the best life of the woman around me, like my grandmother's generations, my mother's generations. It was mostly not good things like that happened to their generations. And just watching my mom kind of suffer with mental health without knowing, getting any help, and the bullies that kind of happens between women. And I don't know, just hard. So I feel like I'm gonna bring those into my next generations, and there's gonna be some trauma that passed down, and I'm really scared of that as well. And with my partner as well, like we can't have kids naturally, so then it was something to think about. Like it gave us more time to think about having kids, but at the same time I feel quite stuck, in a way. And then there's all this body image, like the pot I've been making the last year, they're kind of gross, but I kind of feel comforting looking at them, because I feel like I've been gaining weight the last 2 years, especially here on my tummy. And then like, I don't know, like, how you do this, and then you look at your belly flaps, and then it's like the fold in the pots. And then it's like, oh, I feel like every woman whether you have kids or not have kids, you start getting women are like really easy getting fat, and
it's menopause. Perimenopause.
And
you
stuff
do.
like that. And then it just like I get this like fear of getting old, I guess. in a way, like, oh, like my body's changing, and whether you have kids or not have kids, your body is changing. And
But I think it puts, like, they're beautiful. Like,
yeah.
I found the body of them really beautiful. And I think that's something he captured. And
but I think it stemmed from anxiety of body image.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking a lot about body image. It's like, oh, why do I feel bad about this kind of body, these folds and stuff? It's because the society probably have a beauty standard for women as well. So it's kind of, there's so many layers to the pot. Like,
yeah.
I feel like I've completely, I feel like I have all these things I wanted to capture in my work, but I have a little tiny exit that only certain amounts kind of articulates and comes out, but I don't know how to put them into sequence and stuff. But of course, of the motherhood part was one of the aspects that I tried and dynamic. But then there's so many layers, like not just being, and I don't know how to unpack that. I'm still working it out. Like, I still feel a bit, especially after Taiwan, because I went to Taiwan for 3 months for residency recently. As you know, I just came back.
Yeah, you've only been back 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks, and it was good, but it was also very exhausting. I didn't realize how exhausting it was. It was just, I think because I was born in Taiwan and I speak fluent Mandarin, and the people, like, they forget, like, there's certain social etiquettes and stuff, norms. Like, I've been away for like 24 years. I didn't really grow up as an adult in Taiwan, so I didn't know a lot of the social things they do. So I was like learning that on top of trying to make work, and I don't know, it was like familiar but also not familiar. It was really weird. It's like, it was easier, for example, for me to go to Slovenia because I had no idea about the culture. I was just a foreigner, and I was obviously a foreigner. But in Taiwan, it's like you're familiar, you're Taiwanese, but you're also a foreigner. And it's like, oh, well, in Australia, I feel like I'm not completely Australian in a lot of people's eyes, but I feel quite Aussie. And then I respect I think about the aspects of how Taiwanese culture have shaped my way of thinking, which like the self-doubt and never feel good enough, and that aspects. So then in Taiwan, then I realized how Aussie I am in a way, because I didn't really fit in there as well. So it was a bit, I think I was just thinking a lot, the same thing, like, my Eastern upbringing and how Australian has changed me, and then the conflict I had with my mom, like sometimes we argue, and with my grandma as well. And it's like, oh, it kind of makes more sense meeting other elderly people this time, and then reflecting back on the reactions of my parents or my grandparents, and realize it's like, oh, it's like really a culture thing. Like there's a lot of reminder of my childhood, like the little things that I had. I was like, oh, I remember this as a kid, like the tea culture was amazing in Taiwan, and then everybody just really hospitable. Like they will always offer you tea, and then people will give sweets, and then I guess everything's double-ended, like double sides. The good thing is like everybody is really nice, and then you're always like gifting things, and you want it to be like a community. Like the community feeling is probably strong between even non-related, blood-related aunties and uncles, and then you call people if like one of the elderly man, he's in his 80s. He basically was like, oh, you're like my adopted granddaughter now, and he even gave me a red envelope before I left, which is like, haven't got one for years, and getting it from someone who's not blood related as well was really nice. But the same thing is like, I had to think more how to actually be a Taiwanese. So then the gifting thing was also, it sounds really easy, but there was also some kind of unspoken rules, like hidden social kind of rules. When you like travel, you have to bring some gift back, and then I was gifting I gave a lot of my work away to the people who I met, and then you feel like you had to. And it was interesting navigating that kind of things, like, they were giving you red envelopes, but at the same time you kind of treat them like your own grandparents, and then they're like, oh, like, it's fate that we met, like in Chinese it's usually a word, it's called yuan fen, right? It's like, oh, we met today because it was meant to be, and then like, and then so you will say that, and you'd be like, oh, and then keep the connection kind of thing. So I feel like I had to give away my work as well at the same time.
What's the significance of a red envelope?
Oh, so it's usually it's in Lunar New Year, which is now. It's usually like you will go have dinner with your families, and then that's the time when everybody gets together in a round table, everybody eats, and it's kind of like Christmas in a way, and then it's like Christmas presents, but instead you give money in the red envelope.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And then so usually the kids, there's a lot of hierarchy in the Chinese culture where you have to wish, you say really like prosperous years, like good health and stuff, and then you go to visit the elders, and then you would tell them like, I wish you have a really good year, blah blah blah, and then they will have a pack of envelope already ready to give to to like everybody who's come to wish them, Yeah, and it doesn't just happen between family, like maybe at workplace as well. Your boss might give you red envelopes. Or it could be a lot of the modern, like the young people like to put, or like bubble tea voucher or something.
Cute.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a really nice kind of gifting thing. And red is just lucky because it's like red.
Yeah.
Like Chinese New Year, Lunar, everything's red.
Yeah.
I remember writing in calligraphy on a strip of red paper. My wishes for the year.
Yeah, you put it around your house.
And
the really old story is that there is you have to 过年. 过年. Nian is like a monster that comes down around this springtime, and then all the red and the firecrackers will scare off this monster called Nian. But Nian actually means year. And then to 过年 means like you go past the monster to the next year, so you like move forward. So this monster every year comes down, and but it's interesting. It's like a kid story that I remembered just then.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, Chinese like stories, and everything has meanings and poetic, and they like to make the negatives into positive as well. For example, during New Year, if you accidentally break a glass or break a ceramics or something that, you're like, oh no, broke something. But then they're like, oh, no, it's 岁岁平安 means 岁岁, it's like broken, but it's 平安 is like you've broken something now, but it's keeps you safe for the rest of the year, kind of thing.
It's like you got it out of the way.
Yeah, kind of. I think maybe. Yeah. So there's a lot like that kind of thing. It's like turning some negative things into more positive thing with poetic like idioms and stuff. They're like puns. Taiwanese love puns as well. There's no puns everywhere. Actually, I was trying to explain all the puns to Marcel. And I was like, wow. And then I use English words and sounds like Chinese, and there's just puns everywhere. And Taiwanese just love puns. I don't know why.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you think, I guess, that the residency is going to impact you?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I still feel like I'm processing, because being in Taiwan, I can't really actually. I wasn't just focused on doing ceramics. Like the aspects of meeting people, meeting some long distant relatives. I probably last time they saw me when I was a baby. They came to visit the exhibitions and come to connect, and then like, you have to think like, oh, I gotta go see my grandma. I gotta organize food, a dinner, like lunch dinner with this auntie in Taipei, and there's a lot more things going on around just the residency. And then I actually, before I left for the residency, my dad had a huge argument with me the day I was leaving.
I remember that.
Yeah,
because you said it was when you just found out you'd won the award too, and you had all this conflicting.
Yeah. And then he was insisted certain, like they were really worried that I don't know how to do the social stuff. So they were like trying to push a lot of things like, oh, when you arrive, you need to go see who first, go see this person, go see this. So she was quite concerned about like, oh, you need to make sure you do all these things as a Taiwanese to be a good kind of like maybe for him as well, like I'm a good daughter to him, and representing him in Taiwan, gotta do this thing right. And then I told him like, I don't even know what I'm doing with the residencies. Like I wanted to figure out that for maybe a week or two before I go and see all these people he wanted me to see. And then he got really mad at me. And then I feel like a kid again. I was like, oh wow, like they still really wanted to, you're still part of them, and you still kind of want to control you because you represent them, and now you're going back to the motherland, mother country. If you don't do all these things, they lose face kind of feeling. I think it was kind of on that kind of train of thoughts maybe. And so I think he got really frustrated, and he basically just didn't know how to communicate. Like he wouldn't listen to me, what I was trying to say. And we had I just couldn't talk to him. And then he just left. And then we actually didn't speak until I came back.
Oh, wow.
Until I came back.
That's a long
later.
time.
Yeah, he didn't actually actively message me or anything. It was just through mom as well. Like, and then mom would be like, oh, Derek, you should go see this person again. Or like, you just go see this uncle. Remember to bring a gift. So like the whole time I was in Taiwan, I think I was getting bombarded with messages and things I should do, things I shouldn't do, how to do things right. And I feel like I didn't know how to be a person. At some point, I was just like...
trying to navigate being there physically, socially, and then deal with that. Yeah,
so... And then when I came back, like, at Lunar, like, we had Chinese New Year dinner, Lunar New Year dinner, whatever you call it. That's another topic. And then Dad kind of just... doing the same thing, just pretend like we didn't have a huge argument, no apologies or anything, which is just normal. It's like you don't talk about it. It's like, okay, just pretend everything's fine. It's Lunar New Year. Let's all have dinner together. Talk about nothing serious.
It sounds like it was a real journey and not a normal. Like as you said, when you went to Slovenia, you could be a neutral kind of, or like you could be you, I guess. But it sounds like this one there was so many different layers and lots of good stuff for art making.
I think those little good nuggets of art making come from the most tumultuous times. You know, when you have those big feelings, that's when you got them to get out and to express. So like your feelings around motherhood and that beautiful pot.
Oh, thank you.
And
I think like that was a powerful pot. Like
it's interesting hearing you talk about before the figure and form of the pot and how you're embracing the changes in your body, and then seeing you're a small lady, you're not a big lady, and then this pot that is so, all of those like curves and rolls are so accentuated, and it's just interesting hearing you like talk about that and then see it in the work. And it's a really beautiful pot.
Oh, thank you. Because I still feel, I was really surprised when they called me.
Yeah, can you talk about when you found out and what that was like?
Yeah, I just got a call, and then I am really anxious answering call from unknown numbers. So
I think we all are.
And my phone,
not answering that. If they leave a message, I'll ring them back.
And then my phone's usually on silent. And then I prefer to like see who's called me, and if they left a message, and if it's really, then I'll call back because I kind of know who I'm talking to. So then I didn't answer the phone.
Oh,
I didn't answer the phone. And I think they're like, oh, they just like left a message. It's like, can you please call us back? And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh no, what is it about? Like, maybe I won. I was like telling myself, maybe I won, but I don't know. Like, it's a bit strange why they're trying to call me from the Townsville City Gallery. Yeah, and then anyway. And then I call back, and then they're like, oh, you won. And I was like, what? I was like, maybe it's a fake phone call. It's like, really? So,
And was that the day you were going to Taiwan?
It was, I think it was the day before. Yeah. And then they're like, can you come up? I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Oh, really?
They say, can you come up? And I'm like, no, I didn't expect this. I wasn't planning to go to Townsville to the opening, so I'm flying out to Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so funny because I remember the night that they were announcing the winner, I was sitting on Instagram just thinking, are they going to do a live announcement? Like, how can we tune in? So I'm just refreshing, like maybe some clay people are going to post something.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being Montessa posting
Oh.
a picture of your work on her
Oh.
story saying Ruby's done something wonderful here. I think that's what it was. And I was like,
Oh.
oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh,
We were all so excited. It was one of those things, and I think we've talked about this a bit, is like when someone, you know, when something gets almost as nice as winning it yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Aw.
Yeah.
it felt
That's so
like that. It
sweet.
felt like, oh, I get me teary, but we were so like,
Oh.
I know for me, like that piece was so powerful, and just to see you win, it really deserved it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
So much.
yeah.
And it was funny, like 5 minutes before I saw that you had won, I thought in my head, I was like, oh, because I looked through the catalogue and I was like, I really think Ruby's got a strong piece. I wouldn't be surprised if she won. And then they announced that you won. I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Well deserved, and don't doubt that one.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
It's not a fluke.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a collaborative piece too, and
Yeah.
a lot of people trusted you with those stories, so it's great that it's been celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it's not just my work. So
But that's all work, isn't it?
I know,
in some ways.
but I was like, oh, I couldn't have made it happen without people's stories as well.
So you just find somewhere in there that you can like pull yourself down.
Yeah.
But you facilitated it. It was your idea. It was a brilliant idea, and I think, it wouldn't have happened without you.
And the funny thing was, because my Chinese writing, it's very kiddie-like. Like, and then the part was even harder. And it was really funny. I was in Taiwan. My good friend, who I met in Slovenia with the building kiln, Yu Ting, she's like, she just makes on this comment. She's like, yeah, so writing's like little kids writing on the parts. And then it was like kind of nice, but also kind of funny.
Ruby, can you tell us a bit about Aussie Potters Clay Chat that you do? Like, what gave you the idea or the motivation to interview people? Like, just tell us a bit about how you got into that and what you do.
I think it was end of last year. No, end of last year now, because we're in 2020. Anyway, I just had a chance to know this app, which is like a live talking app. And then, because I feel like having all the podcast equipment seems very tedious. Like, I wanted to do it, but I kind of not very good at executing without someone else pushing me to do it. And I was like, I just want something easy. And I thought, this could be a good first kind of trial thing to do this kind of interview thing. And then why do I want to do the interviews? Because I realize I often just ask people on Instagram and random people about all this question anyway. I'm like interested in what they're doing. And how everybody's different was really interesting. And then I'm like, why don't I just kind of casually have this kind of conversation and just put on somewhere everybody can hear. So that's how it started. So it's basically just laziness that I don't want to do a podcast, and I just use the app. And,
It's kind of something in between. isn't it?
kind of something in between. But then the only thing is that it's live. So it's like a radio, but not really a radio. And it's recorded automatically on the app. So I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And then I didn't mind it being just casual talking and I don't have to do any editing like you guys have to do. I was like, we made a mistake, that's fine. It's just chatting. And then, I mean, I don't think a lot of people listen to it, but it was mostly for myself, I guess. It's kind of nice. And then just finding that good points about, like, when I look at someone who wants to interview, everybody has their kind of forte, I guess. Things they're doing that's interesting, and then I try to think about that and then come up with some questions beforehand, so I don't feel stuck. And it's nice to just, usually most people just keep talking. When you ask them about them, like the right question, I feel like it just flows, which is nice. Yeah.
So do you find that you really enjoy interviewing people?
Yeah, I think so. And then it's nice to have it recorded and listen back as well. Yeah. And then maybe I was thinking, those people I interview, maybe in a few years' time, see where they're at as well would be really cool.
Yeah, have them revisit a conversation with them.
Yeah. And the article, actually, I feel like everything feeds into kind of my thoughts.
Mhm.
They're kind of like little random thoughts in my brain and somehow connected in just imagined visually. I talked to John daily in Gogong, and yeah, we had a chat, and then he also studied environmental science and like more like geology, rocks and stuff, which is really interesting. So I started talking about uni and then about pottery, about ceramic arts and all that, and about sustainability, like conscious making and things he's really passionate about. And that's actually how the article in the 633 Jack came about, because I keep pestering him about it. Like since April, I was like, oh, perfect. I'm gonna be like assistant editing for Montesa. I feel like whatever we talked about in Gogan was really valuable. Can you write it? And he's like, oh yeah. I realized that he's like me. So then I just kept pushing him.
Yeah.
To write this article. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's a great article. It's another
Yeah.
one I was saying.
But
It's
he
a strong
spent,
article.
and I knew he spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
Because he's probably like me, he probably like writes it, and he's like, I'm not sure this is, and he keep fixing it, and then so it took him a while, but I keep telling him like he's doing a good job. I'm like, it's fine, I really like it. Because he's like, are you sure it's okay? I'm like, yeah, it's great.
I just wrote a 200-word piece for the journal, and
Nice.
like it seriously took me like weeks. Like it's hard, hey.
Yeah,
It's-
and the editing other people's work was a skill too. I have to keep asking Montesa, am I editing too much? Like, does
Yeah.
it flow? Can I change it this way? What if the author is not happy about the edits? Like, all this personal, like, people aspect of it, I didn't realize, offending people not happy with how you've changed it, and which photo is, you have to keep chasing up photos as well, because they don't, sometimes they just send you really low resolution ones. And try to explain, like, you need a high resolution, and a lot of people aspects. Actually, it's all kind of tied together. In Taiwan, there's a lot of people aspects of it. The journal was a lot of people aspects of it. It's a skill. To deal with people.
For sure, and it's something that I like. Obviously, before our chat, I was like, Ruby, who is Ruby? I know Ruby, but I really thought about you and your practice, and I realized community is really important. You keep pushing into these realms. Like the journal is such a community thing. Like having, your Aussie Potters chat. That's a real community building thing, and you do these things to hear the stories and to gather the people together.
Your work too.
And
Yeah.
teaching
Like that.
as well, something we haven't spoken about is teaching.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, I don't feel like I do that much community because I'm pretty much just hermit. I like to stay home and hermit.
Yeah, but you were like, I know, like, if I'm like, hey, Ruby, on Instagram, we will have like an hour chat via text.
Yeah.
So you're quite, like, you're not that kind of hermit that doesn't like to talk to people or
Yeah.
just go into your own kind of cave. I feel like you're very with the people a lot, even if you're at home on Instagram. I feel like there's part of you that you must be filled up
Yeah.
by that kind of...
I like it when it's a small group.
Yeah.
Like just 2 people is great, 3 people is okay. But yeah, like I don't mind if people ask me to go have a coffee or something, and it's just usually 1 or 2 people. In big groups, I'm not great.
No, me either.
Yeah. I feel like I'm really awkward in big groups. I'm just like, and in Taiwan, I had to do the opening speech in Mandarin for the first time.
How was
It
that?
was nerve-wracking because I didn't think a lot of people would come, but it was really sweet. My really long-distance uncle, who happened to be, like, I didn't realize have families in the area where I was doing my residency, really close, like literally the next town. So he brought 3 generations of his family
Oh, wow.
to the opening, and then I never met them before. And so there was him, and then his like daughters and son and his grandkids, and then suddenly there was like this whole group of like people just appeared. I'm like, whoa! It's like, I didn't know. And then they're like, you have so many relatives. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, it was first time having to talk about my work in Mandarin. It was quite tiring, actually. Yeah, but yeah, everybody keeps saying like, oh yeah, your Mandarin is fine. I'm like, yeah, is it? Like, it's kind of like people tell you, oh, your English is really good. And you're like, okay, you know? And then you're like, oh,
I
your
grew up
Mandarin.
here, thank you.
I'm like, oh, but then in Taiwan, like, your Mandarin's really good. And I'm like, I feel like you say that to people whose Mandarin was not good. Yeah, but anyway, it was just funny that, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but I think they were generally surprised. They're like, oh, but you haven't lived in Taiwan for almost 25 years. I'm surprised your accent is very Taiwanese. I'm like, yeah, because I only speak to my parents and they have Taiwanese accents, so it makes sense, right? Yeah.
Would you like to chat a little bit about some performance work you've done? Because I think that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's another long story, maybe. So the performance, actually, I really like that kind of collaborative. It's also collaborative. So for those pieces that I made into charms were like broken ceramics. So those broken ceramics are actually from another exhibition about 4 years ago at KEPT. I don't know if you KEPT Gallery in it's near Fairfield. Yes. Anyway, in Ropili.
Oh,
Yeah. So this space, and then during COVID I got asked to join this group exhibition. It's supposed to be interactive, so you can touch artwork, and then it was really fun because all the artwork in that group exhibition was all interactive. And so for my exhibition, the first time I did that kind of thing, I was thinking about all the pots we hate after we made them. So then you have a corner of like naughty pots, like the naughty part, and you're like, you don't want to see it. You're just like, oh, it's there, but you kind of know it's there, but you don't want to look at it. And then I said, oh, I feel like we should give them some purpose, I guess, because I feel like breaking them. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go and collect our ceramic artist's naughty pile. And then I asked a few people, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, come and collect them. So
Everyone has a naughty pile.
Everyone's like relieved. Oh, finally, they're going somewhere.
They have a purpose now.
Yeah. So I went and collect them, and then I set it up like a meditative kind of space in a corner, and with all these pots displayed, and then I set up try to make it as safe as possible with the hammer and gloves and goggles. So then I had a little instruction, because it was during COVID, so it was like, people feel free to pick a pot that you feel connected to, and then maybe put something that you want to, like a thought or something you want to get rid of, I guess, and then put the thoughts into this pot you're holding and think about it for a few minutes, and then break it. Yeah.
That's great.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I really wanted to do that again, but I haven't. It's been 4 years maybe. But back to the topic, and I kept all these pieces from that exhibition. Actually, someone wanted to buy it.
Really?
They wanted to buy a pot.
Oh.
And I said, can I not break it? And I said, no. I said, the whole point is like, I told everybody who I collect the pots that those are the pots I don't want alive. Like, I want to be broken. And then, it took her a while. She was there for like half an hour, and then she was like, okay. And then she sat down, and then she broke that pot. She really liked it.
Really?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Anyway.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, here we go. Yeah, so I think she felt relieved though afterwards. It felt quite nice, I think.
Because there's still a connection there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, she still had that relationship with the pot, even though it wasn't like an object to take.
Yeah.
She still had this kind of tension and, interesting.
Yeah, so I kept them thinking, like, I really want to recycle them in some ways, give them another life. So then those pots the first life was for people to use as a reflection, kind of, for people to process their feelings about COVID and about things that happen in their life that just for themselves. So that was they used as a process for that exhibition, and then I kept them. And then I think 2 years later, I was talking to my friends, Flora. She is a violinist. She's doing a PhD, and she's also quite interesting because she's classically trained, but she's kind of gone to a more thinking about education, how music is education, but because we all classical trained musicians are kind of stuck in the same mold, I guess, and then she wants to find new ways to educate kids about music. So she does a lot of experimental music. Like she had played, she had put rice in the violin and then use it as like and then make sounds inside the violin and then play it and pluck strings, and she does also really interesting. So I really love what she's doing with music, and because I play piano as well. I play also classically trained, but I didn't go to uni for music or anything. It was just always, I don't know, piano was like my first art, I guess. I do. And then we started talking about how can we do a collaborative thing with clay and violin, and I think it took us maybe half a year. And so Flora came over and then she's like, I wanted to see what you do in the studio and stuff, and because I told her like, oh, when I'm making things, when my mind's like when it's quiet and during the middle of the night, there's no other sound except the wheel, which is really quiet, but like clay wedging, just banging sounds with the tool. And I thought it was really interesting because I don't know, I always find interesting little, like the sound of the river, the sound of the creek, the sound of the rain fascinating. And so I was like, oh, maybe we can do something with them. But I'm like, I don't know how to execute it. Like I have ideas, but I don't know how to, I need someone to execute it for me. So she came over and then we recorded some sounds from even this slot bucket when you squish it and stuff. Yeah, all these sounds. And then went to her place and then she was like, oh, and I told her I have all these broken pieces. I can tie it into, actually it was just a frame, like the IKEA clothes frame. Yeah, I just kind of used whatever I had at home. And then so I tie them up and then like you kind of can make them into a charm. Yep, so that's one of the instruments we end up making from those broken pieces from the exhibition 2 years ago before the performance. And then so we thought we can do a loop of some of the sounds that she recorded in, and so we keep adding things and we keep talking and just like going back and forth for half a year. It was really fun, even not thinking about performing, but. And then she's like, oh yeah, we can actually make this into some kind of performance. Like, you know, initially it was just like, oh, it's fun, let's explore. And so we got the loop, we got the charm, and then I was like, oh, I have all these pots, like bisque pots, and some pots I just don't want to fire them because I decided I don't like them after bisque, and then they're just kind of sitting there. And then I went and dug out all my old percussion sticks from high school. I still have them. And then, yeah, I just thought, oh yeah, I always, you know how when you're making pots in the studio, you always, you can click the pots and then make sound, ting and stuff, and they'll have different tones and stuff. And I'm like, oh, we can work with that. You know, so then that's how I had the percussion sections with those pots. Yeah, like unwanted pots in my studio and broken pots.
That's great.
Yeah, and then, but then the hard work is for her to find out which scale, which you know, we're gonna use for the piece. Yeah. So she was more like she's matching me because I can't change the tone of the, you know, the pots. Yeah. The kind of set.
Key,
they're already in the set key, like you said, and yeah. So we tried out different things, and then we decided we're gonna do it as improvising. And then she's like, oh, actually, a Brisbane powerhouse. She got a I think it was the OM Festival, the Experimental Music Festival. Have you guys been there?
No.
It's like OHM Festival.
Oh, yeah.
So then part of that, they had a local funding, and it was really small. It was like $500 for each of us, the two of us. So I think it was $1,000. So we each got $500 for that performance, which is nothing.
That's great.
Because it's an experimental music festival, so they're really keen to have some kind of local. So we performed as improvising. And then we brought the ceramics and stuff. And then, I don't know, I was like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm gonna make pots too.
Always gonna make pots too.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna make pots during the performance. Yeah, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was like 30 minutes. I think the performance was 30 minutes. So then we had plans about certain things, but we went with the flow. Like it was improvising basically, but improvising with a bit of structure. So then we work out the structures, and then on the day we just improvised. So basically the structure was, it's kind of very classical music, like the sonata, like you have movement 1, 2, 3, you know, and so I split into 3 sections where the first movement is, there's a bit of, and then we added spoken bits as well. Just because, I don't know, both Asians thinking, oh, it's not good enough, I'm going to add all these elements into it. So I spoke about how I feel about working with clay, and then she spoke about how music is her material and then clay is my material. So then we both talked a little bit about that. And then we performed it together. Sorry. And the second part was mainly her playing her violin, and then I was making a pot in 10 minutes, coiling. So I had to prepare the coils first because I want to do it really quick. So then the third movements, we played it again with each other, with the ceramics and then with the violin. And then in the very end of that, I squashed the pot. Yeah, and then it made a whoosh sound. And then it was really great because in the recording, you hear this whoosh, and then you hear all the audience goes, it was great.
Oh,
and then
great.
And then I feel like I feel that performance, it was really great because the audience invested in our making. Mm-hmm. So then it's like they kind of went through the making process with us, whether it's music or clay, in how we like, and then to the end, and then kind of, yeah, so it's really nice.
That's great.
Yeah. I have a recording. I don't have a video recording, but I have the sound recording of it.
Cool.
So it's really nice to still have that as a memory, but you can't replicate it because it's improvised. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I was there. I wish I saw it. It sounds amazing.
I was trying to get there, but just didn't.
I would have been invested in that pot too.
Yeah.
So I coiled really quickly. It's a really bad made pot, but it was just because it was mainly for performance. So I coiled super quickly in 10 minutes. It was like this big.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I prepared everything.
That's probably about 50 centimeters high. Yeah. Sorry, I just realised that we're like, forget that people are listening.
Watching.
You coiled to about 50 centimeters high.
Yeah, maybe, but like quite thin.
Yeah.
And then, I was like, please don't collapse.
Just make it till the end.
Yeah, make it to the end of like our time, like the set time. I thought we wanted to do it, and there was also, because I went to Korea for that workshop with Mastercraft, and I had all the Korean tools. So part of the sound was also the banging of the clay on the wheel, and then so there's some like a lot of percussion sounds and just the violin making in different ways, not just the traditional violin. It's really nice. And then because percussion was also what I did in high school. I was in the symphony orchestra in high school as a percussionist. So I had all my old sticks as well, so I used them.
Nice.
So it's kind of nice. Like recycle everything.
I feel like it's interesting, isn't it, where those like other art forms we have in our life can kind of come together with our clay making. Yeah. Because another thing I know that you're quite passionate about is tea ceremonies.
Yeah, I think I am not very committed. I go to class, but unlike everybody else in tea ceremony, I think they're there to, going to the next stage. But I think for me, I initially got there because of ceramics, and I just thought it was interesting to be in a place where there's lots of artwork, like there's calligraphy, there's lacquerware, there's bamboo, there's ceramics, there's what else?
I mean, even the performance is art, really, isn't it?
Yeah, basically,
it's like an art form in itself.
Yeah, like the whole thing of how you walk, in the tea room, how you serve people and what you do. It's very tedious. Like, it's really hard work. I'm too lazy to... I feel like I'm pretty lazy to do it all properly, but I just kind of enjoy being there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just go there because I can see all this artwork every week when I'm there. if I'm there every week. But I think Sensei knows. She's like I wasn't gonna do the exam to be a tea teacher or tea master or something. I was there for a different reason, which is, I think, is fine. initially I think for a period of time I felt like I wasn't good enough to be there because everybody else was improving. They were like always there because I'm always going away and doing stuff. I'm like, oh, I got ceramic stuff, I can't go. And then the people who go there consistently every week, obviously they've remembered more, and I feel like I never remember all the procedures properly, and I've been there for years. But then in the end I was thinking, oh, I shouldn't be so hard on myself. Like, I think I'm there for a different reason, and then that's totally fine. I don't have to be a tea master. And that's the problem with me. Marcel, my partner Marcel said, whenever you do anything, you want to be the best. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, you think about it, like, you do, like, you know, you can't be the best. But like, you can strive to be better than, you know, better than yourself, I don't know, a year ago or something. But I feel like I do realize that I always try to, like, if I'm not the best, I feel like I'm not good enough. But you don't have to be the best to be good enough, which is hard to process in the beginning, I think. I was like, no, I don't want to be the best. But I'm like, oh, actually, he's right. Like, the reason why I don't feel good enough is not because I'm not trying to be the best. But unconsciously, that's what I'm doing. Like, because I'm not the best. So I feel like I'm not good enough all the time. And that's probably not good for my mental health.
Yeah. It's good to recognise it, hey? I think, the more time you spend with yourself and kind of going, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
You know, like with the tea ceremony, it sounds like you've really gone through that process and gone, actually, I just love going for the process and not having to be the best. Yeah.
And who knows, like, you know, I still go whenever I can, if the teacher, like, sensei still lets me go. I haven't been kicked out yet. And like maybe in a few years when I'm older, I have more time, I can keep going, who knows. Yeah, so don't have to rush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I say that to myself. I keep trying to tell myself not to rush, but I feel like I'm rushing all the time. I'm like, no, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. Oh, I haven't done this. Well, that's not enough.
Relatable.
It's like, oh no, it's like someone's already, like, you know, done this, and then I feel like
on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever pause and reflect and celebrate yourself?
Well,
or is it hard?
I think it's hard, but like I do realize, like, for example, like I came back from Taiwan and like I'm so tired. And I feel bad about not doing anything, but then
It's only been 2.5 weeks.
Yeah,
like,
but
you're allowed to rest.
I know, but like Marcel tells me that too, and then he reminds me that it's like it's 2 months and you're leaving again, you know. Let's just take a break. Don't have to do much. I'm like, oh, but I'm worried about money, and like, you know, he's working. You can see him working every day in school, and I'm like, oh, I need to do something. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Even though I did a lot in Taiwan, I guess.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you had
a show.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, what should I do? Like, this year feels I don't know. I think the hardest bit being freelance is not knowing what happened next month, I guess.
You have to plan ahead so much.
Yeah. And then I feel like I haven't really got anything going except going to USA in April, but then, like, what about the rest of the year? Like, and then I even thought, oh, maybe there isn't anything in ceramic going for me, then maybe I just have to go back to teaching and just maybe take a break from ceramic. But I don't know. Hopefully something come up.
Yeah, it's something I think in our last episode we spoke about a bit, just that it's okay to have a job that pays the bills.
Yeah.
You can keep doing ceramics. Like, I'm looking at having a part-time job, and Rora's just started part-time work.
It feels like I'm cheating on clay.
But financial security can give you some freedom sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. We're both lucky of the teaching qualification, which I'm glad I have, because my old school would be like, you know, gave me a job for 2 weeks. Later this term. Yeah, I mean, it's not every week I got income, and then like also massive make. I'm not, because I'm always away, so it's hard for Charlie to give me a job. But I've been just taking people's if they're away sick or something to do, I just take.
So that's Massamik's pottery studio, and you teach. What do you teach there?
So just I can teach.
Sounds like you teach it all.
Well, I can. Mostly the beginner classes, and then if they're away, like for example, they have something on. We usually have an app, and then someone's like, "Oh, can someone help me take class?" I've just been doing that. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm free. I can do it."
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So doing that. So it's kind of doing supply for ceramic, also supply for state school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're a busy lady.
no, it's not that busy. I don't feel busy.
No, you are.
Yeah. And then I think last year was interesting because last year in the beginning of the year I was really sick of our prices.
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot about what it means, like what does it actually do, and then why am I applying? Why, like every time you apply for our price, they ask for money, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and it costs so much.
It costs a lot of money every time. And then you think about it, like you apply for, even if you're getting, you have to cover the shipping, which you guys know. Cover the shipping, and then if it doesn't sell, shipping back, and what does it actually do for your art? I don't really know. So I purposely didn't want to apply to anything. And I almost didn't apply to North Queensland.
Oh, really?
And I think it was Bailey. She was like, usually it's Bailey or Claudia. The two of them I talked to quite a lot. And then I think Claudia was like, and Bailey was like, just like apply for it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll think about it. And I was like, I was looking at different art prices and looking at the judges, and I was thinking like, oh, actually, I quite like North Queensland's the ceramic award because it's ceramic focused, and they've been going for 50 years at least, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really well known, and then I feel like going to that competition serves the ceramic community more in a way, like it's all ceramic. It's everybody kind of all knows about ceramic. It's not like those ones where they mix with paintings and ceramic, and then you look at the art price for painters and ceramic, and it's really sad because the painters probably winning the painting category is like 35,000
or 50 in some,
or 50.
And then ceramic is
like
10.
Yeah, 10,000 or like $5,000.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, and then I look at the art price, like all the previous winners, it's never ceramic. Like usually it's never ceramic, right? It's usually painters, right? And I was like, oh, and then you look at the judge, you're like, am I just contributing money to an art price where it's just some really rich person who decided whose art's better than someone else's? Or is it actually someone in the field who I respect? And then I was like, okay, if I don't apply, I'm not applying for anything this year, then at least I'll apply for North Queensland Potters Ceramic Award. Yeah, and
then he won.
and it was crazy because I didn't want to sound like that's not. I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. I think
there's the competition element of art awards too that doesn't build a nice community.
Yeah, and then
where everyone's competing for this tiny slither of money that doesn't even really cost. It doesn't even cover the costs of much. And I mean, we've spoken about it a bit. So at the uni where Aurora and I both attended, there's a big printmaking community, and it's very collaborative and a lot of exchanges. And there's such a lovely energy around that compared to competing. And we've talked about how in ceramics, and I think the North Queensland Art Award and Silicious that's coming up, they've got a different energy. They're more about building community and supporting each other and celebrating ceramics. And so I can really see what you're saying.
I like the way you summed up your decision making on what to apply for. That makes me kind of think about applying for things in the future as well.
So just, I don't know, I just thinking not thinking about how it serves me, but just thinking about what does it actually mean, for all these people applying, everybody's contributing all these admin fees, but then what is it? Is it in the end? Is it just for some rich company? Usually it's some sponsorship, and they have someone who's just selecting all these. I don't know. I just feel unsure.
Oh, for sure. I've heard of a photography award where it was $50 to enter, and the first prize was $500.
Oh,
and you're like, that's just.
But where's all the entry money going?
You're like, it's just keeping. I mean, I know the arts at all levels are underfunded, but still, that's pretty hard. 10 people will cover
the prize. Like, yeah.
And it was nice. It was the Townsville Council kind of ran the competition as well. So it was, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going into a collection and it'll be shown, and that's awesome. Like,
So
I know when we caught up before it and you were talking about entering it, I remember you saying, I'd like it to go somewhere that it can keep living and keep telling the story. So it feels perfect.
I know. I actually was really glad. I was like, oh, instead of sitting at home, just
it's going to be valued.
Staring at it, just someone you can be somewhere where everybody can see it.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice, and I haven't decided, but because I was so busy in Taiwan, like I only just had time to sit down and think about it. But I really wanted to donate some part of the prize money, but I haven't decided where, to a group that look after women or mental health and mothers. But I was like researching, but at some point in Taiwan, and then I got distracted, and then I was like, oh well, I'll just do it later when I go to this one. But I'm still thinking, I think it would be nice for myself to feel less guilty about winning.
I don't think you should feel guilty.
I feel like it's contribution for everybody, and then there's some way I want to give back to those people who contribute, but in a different way.
Yeah.
To the woman, to the mothers, like some kind of charity group that does good work in the community, and then I feel like it's complete. I feel like
great.
And I feel like this making process and winning and stuff feels more complete in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah. But I don't want to donate. I just haven't figured out where.
Yeah, I mean, there's no rush. If
there's any ideas,
it's like what you tell yourself, Ruby. There's no rush.
No rush.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, Ruby?
Do you have any questions?
I feel maybe a little bit like what's coming up for you. You've spoken a little bit about going to America. That's pretty exciting.
I'm a little bit scared of going to America, to be honest. If it wasn't for this residency coming up in North Carolina, I probably wouldn't go. But
where what's the name of the place you're doing?
So last year in Gogong, also made a connection with Josh. Yeah, so that's another story.
Josh Copus?
Yes, yeah. So Josh Copus.
They got really hit by the hurricane, didn't they?
Yeah. So we had a chat at Gogong, and then afterwards we were like, oh, it'd be nice to wood fire with you or something. Go see your place and stuff. North Carolina seems like a really good wood firing community, and then and then after he got back to America, and then he came back, it's like, oh, actually my friend who's in the same town, called Township 10, they run a residency program. She runs a residency program, but usually, but then for this residency, Josh kind of want to work with her, so we stay in Townsville 10. We have to live there and then use the facility there. But then when we go firing, instead of firing at Township 10, we go fire with Josh to go to his studio. So it's kind of like collaborative. So he decided with his friends that it would be nice. And he's like, oh, I wanted to support the emerging wood fires, people who are interested in wood firing, like the people who supported me. So it was really nice the way he put it. He's like, oh, when I was younger, people were really open about bringing me to their place to wood fire, and he feel like it's like a way for him to give back. And then so he really funnily, he was like just us talking, and then he made it happen, kind of thing.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, so 4 of us are going. Yeah, and then the good thing is that Josh was like, oh, you have to pay for the flight, pay for a rental car, because we're in the middle of nowhere. You need a car to get around. But 4 of us probably rent one would be should be affordable. Yeah. And then figure out your own food situation, like buy grocery. That's why you need a car. But they're covering everything else.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So like clay firing, using the studio, living accommodation. I think they have, I don't know if they have some kind of funding, but between the 2 of them, they've
That's
That's
huge.
great. And then everything's like, it's okay to go over because I know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we in the end of last year, we were messaging him saying like, oh, is it still okay for us to go in April as proposed? And he's like, and then later he's like, yeah, we're still gonna, keep it the same date.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
You might be doing a little bit of cleaning up and helping too.
I think they've been doing a lot of that already.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then the community really got together to clean up and from what he showed on the videos and stuff. And he's like, yeah, no worries, like it's just come as planned.
That's great.
So we're going. And then MCCA was 2 weeks before the racing start, so I thought maybe I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be hectic. And I have 2 weeks free, which I have no idea where to go yet. And then to start the residency for 6 weeks.
How exciting.
It sounds like North Carolina has a pretty cool ceramics community
Yeah.
because that's where Mud Tools,
Mm-hmm.
I know they got hit with the floods too, but they're back up. And a few other folks, like Penland isn't far from there.
So the end of the residency, which is the end of May, the North Carolina wood firing community is hosting a wood firing conference as well.
Oh, great.
So I think it's quite good timing. So I have like MC car 2 weeks. I don't know, travel somewhere. I'm a bit a bit anxious about it. But then the residency, meeting up with the other 3 people from Australia in the 6 weeks, and then the wood firing conference, and then come back.
Wow, huge.
Be great.
Yeah.
It is an interesting time politically.
Yeah.
In America,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Why you're hesitant. Yeah.
Yeah, and thinking about traveling by myself, renting cars.
You'll meet people. You'll make friends.
Yeah, we'll see.
You always do, Ruby.
I mean, I do know. I know 2 people going to in America going to MC. Like I know. So hopefully, I have someone to tag along with, like just hang around with them and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be great. And I can't wait to watch your Instagram and
Oh,
keep up with what you're doing.
I was telling myself like, oh, maybe I should go to America, and he's like, it'll be fine. And then before I could say no, he booked my ticket for me.
Oh, that's great.
He was looking at ticket. I was like, oh, I don't know, like it's really complicated. America's so big. I don't know, like which. And then he's like, hey, it's a really cheap flight. And I was like, oh, let me think about it. He's like, okay, I booked it. And I'm like, no.
It's a great supportive partner. Yeah.
He's like, it's really cheap. Like, how can you can fly to America for this price? It's probably not gonna come up again. I'm like, okay.
You're like, guess I'm going.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh. So I'm still like, just like.
Oh, no, you'll have a great time, I'm sure. And Josh is such a ball of energy.
Oh, I mean, like
and-
when I get there, I'm sure it'll be fine. But it's the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The in-between time.
In between, I'm so worried. I'm like, oh, where am I gonna
You
go?
can just go hang out somewhere cool, look at art. There's lots of good galleries and
it's
have a
expensive.
break. You could have a little break.
Yeah, have a holiday
Could do
in
some
the middle.
camping.
I'm like New York, like the Met Museum would be great, but it's expensive in New York apparently. And I really wanted to check out the Alfred University.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they have a really good ceramic department.
And I feel like Cami always talks about it. Do you ever listen to, I think her new podcast is called The Ceramics Companion. She used to do the Ceramics podcast
Yeah.
and they talk about Alfred. So does the Flux Sake.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was
I wanted to check out the ceramic department because I heard good things about it.
Yeah.
So it's quite close to the Canadian border. I was like, maybe I want to Canada.
Yeah.
You've got 2 weeks. Just like do one of those things.
No, but like,
Yeah, I guess you could.
I feel safer in Canada. I don't know if I should say that, but like, maybe in Canada it's similar to Australia.
Yeah,
They love Australians, apparently.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I'll just cross the border, go see Alfred University, and then think about how to get to North Carolina. And America is big.
Yeah,
And I was
it
thinking, like,
is.
should I drive in the countryside by myself?
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
right.
in like camper van or something? I don't know. Really expensive. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and it, also the funding, like I was looking at international funding. And every time I start one, I never finish it. There's so much.
They're huge.
The applications,
I
yeah.
know.
I just need, like, the same thing. I can't execute. I just need someone to just. I was thinking like, oh, I've never actually successfully applied for a fund, so I feel like, oh, I'm not a real artist. I haven't applied for a fund yet. Yeah. So that's like my train of thought. Sometimes it's like, oh, I haven't done this, like, you know, this thing that maybe and I'm just like self-funding, which is great, but also not great.
Yeah.
Because I know I could get money. Like, I know what I'm doing, I can get money, but I just couldn't get there.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's funny.
And that's why, like, sometimes leaning on your community can be good. You know, like, I know a friend, she's just started working from home and she's doing, like, the body doubling thing. Have you heard of that? Like, where she's got a friend that's also working from home and they check in and set goals together and then check in every, like, half hour and say, hey, how'd you go with that thing? Or, you know, like, just having some folks to help you, because it is daunting. Like, I'm trying to do an ethics application for honours at the moment, and I feel like giving up on it. I haven't even started my honours project yet, but you kind of, it takes a lot to keep on going with those.
Yeah, ethics.
Yeah. Yeah, you will have had to have done that.
But like the international funding looks perfect to apply because it's for exchange, and I feel like what Josh is doing and you know, fits the category, but I don't know, I fill in the easy part and then I'll like get to the part where you have to write and I'm like, oh.
Wait a second, aren't you a writer?
But like, you know, I actually really hate writing artist statements and about yourself and wishy-washy waffling things that you have to write that the grand people like to read.
We can't love it all, can we?
Like, it'd be more interesting to write about things I actually think about.
Yeah.
But not like, just like, this is such a great, you know.
Is it partly talking yourself up that you find? Yeah.
I think so.
Because you have to, like, in those applications, you have to say, I am great, pick me.
I am successful, I am emerging, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I find it really annoying to like have to write them. And then myself was like, why don't you get ChatGPT to write the backbone? The backbone, because ChatGPT is really good at writing nonsense. And that sounds great. and then you can like change it to more like tone it down, but it kind of help because you can't talk yourself up. So like you can get this like crazy exaggerated things about how great you are, and then tone it down, and then it would be perfect. And what I'm still doing now is like, it's like, wow, it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, Ruby, thank you so much for the chat today.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Put a link to your Instagram, which I really recommend listeners check out because you're quite active on there and it's a great journey seeing about all the things that you're doing. We'll put that in the show notes.
It's been really nice to get to know a bit more about you and a bit, you know, behind your practice and everything. So thanks for talking to us.
And hopefully we'll talk again soon because I think there's lots of things we didn't talk about today about your practice. So
that's
it'll be great to chat again soon. And you can also we'll also put a link to Aussie Potters Chat because there's some awesome chats there.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks, Ruby.
That's all right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed. You can find us on Instagram at birdsofclay_podcast. Please feel free to send us any questions or comments. And if you could leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, that would be amazing. We'll see you next time.